before our marriage. And I said, hey, honey, I know we're not like officially married, but we're engaged and we've got that date. And here's some things I can't pay right now, like my car loan, some student loans. Do you think you might start advancing a little bit? And it was that moment, Mike and John, that she believed in me. And she
Yeah.
said, absolutely, I'll do that. And that was then what propelled our career, our life, because of that initial belief, not only from believing in me to say, let's go do it, financially backing me. And then you fast forward after she had a career at Procter and Gamble and General Motors in the early 2010s, 11, 12. She then said, we've got something going at Lumen Legal. You're this visionary guy. I understand how to get stuff done as an integrator and be a strategist. Why don't we kind of merge our business lives together?
Welcome to the Your Seat at the Table podcast with your hosts, Idea Monkey Mike Maddock and ringleader John Tobin. We're two founders, a serial entrepreneur and a billion-dollar operator, who talk to leaders about how, when, and why they made their most pivotal decisions in life. Join us as we share wisdom, mistakes, and a few laughs learning from the brightest minds in business today. Okay, so welcome to the Your Seat at the Table podcast. We have the Renaissance man, David Galbenski, with us. And Dave, you've done a lot of stuff. I went and pulled your bio. I've known you for better than 20 years, but I was surprised at how much ground you've covered. You're an entrepreneur, a lawyer, an author, a public speaker. You're the founder of Lumen Legal, that you ran for 27 years before you sold it. You were the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. John, I believe you were the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year.
I
So you guys,
was, I think it
yes.
was in, yeah, I think it was in 98 or 99, or sorry, 2000, 2008,
Virtual fist
2009.
bump.
Yeah,
Virtual fist bump, John. That's
so
awesome.
clearly I'm the weak link here. So you two guys have both won Entrepreneur of the Year. You've been on the Inc. 500 list. You were the global chairman for one of my favorite organizations in the world, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. And on your watch, it expanded to over 40 countries and tens of thousands of entrepreneurs. You've written 3 books. Let's see. You are the entrepreneurial emeritus for the Edward Lowe Foundation, which I'm
That's a
well aware
crazy
of.
title. Mike, that just
Emeritus.
means
That
I
means you
got
have great
gray
energy.
hair,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah,
right?
that means you're old. You're emeritus. But that is a great foundation. And you've been featured in all the big publications, Wall Street Journal, Business Week, Entrepreneur, blah, 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 blah. But more importantly, you're one of the good guys. When no one's watching, you're doing good things for the world, and we'll get to that. So, David, I just highlighted a bunch of your stuff. Tell us how you got to be who you are today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, and thanks for that great intro. Great to spend time with you and John. And I think in that intro, the most important thing to me you spoke on was just long-term relationship, right? You and I have known each other for decades. And for you to conclude like, hey, he's one of the good guys, at the end of the day, for me, that is the best accolade anyone could mention along that long string of items that you had. And one other thing I'll mention in that intro that we didn't cover, which I think is so important to me, is family. I think for a lot of people is so critical. And you talk about how did I become who I am today? For me, I was blessed with a family. I was blessed with a mom and dad that cared about me and an older brother that kind of blocked the way for me. And then for me, when I think about my entrepreneurial journey, it was my wife, Lynn, who I've been married to for 31 years, and daughter, Sarah, who's now been married for 2 years, to my son. I call him my son, not son in law, Patrick. And for me, that's what it's all about, right? I think family for me is what allowed me to do what I've been able to achieve for others. And I think that's very important, is that when others invested and believed in me, it allowed me to have wings to fly. And we'll talk about this probably along the journey, Mike and John, is there's another person that I wouldn't even be here but for. and that's my brother-in-law,
Hmm.
Mark, who actually lives inside of me every day because he gave me a portion of his liver. So
Okay.
for me, that is the through line through my entire career, is that people believed in me, cared for me, gave me a platform to fail, to succeed, and supported me. And I think for me, that's the greatest blessing to allow me to do what I've done.
Hey, Dave, Lynn, let's talk about your wife because I've
Yeah.
heard you're reminding me of um, how John talks about his wife Ellen and credits her
Happens to be
whenever possible.
Mike's sister, if that's
Yeah,
not clear.
my
Yeah.
sis, he's clever because he married my sister. Um, but I've seen him give dozens of toasts and talks, and he always
Sure.
is importantly credits Ellen for being kind of the wind beneath his wings. This is an entrepreneurial question, and I don't want to get you in
Mm.
trouble, but I'm very curious about this.
Yeah.
Um, did Lynn was what was more important? Lynn
Mm.
believing in you when you didn't believe in yourself, or being like the quiet strategist who helped you figure out the toughest problems? You can only pick one.
Oh man, I was
Hmm.
hoping I could say both, Mike. Come on. But that's a great interviewer, right? So if I had to pick one of the two, it would be the belief. And it goes all the way back, Mike, to when I initially founded Lumen Legal, which we ran for 27 years. When I say we, Lynn joined us later on in the journey, but I never would have had the ability to have this amazing life journey, but for this quick story. So, my wife, Lynn, we met at undergrad, U of M Business School, University of Michigan. She then went on to get her MBA when I went to law school. Worked for Procter and Gamble, and then we decided to have our family in Michigan. So I proposed to her in May of 1994. We set a marriage date October of 1995, and that was right when I was launching what was becoming Lumen Legal.
Okay.
And in those startup days, a thinly
Yeah,
capitalized $2,000 enterprise that was started in my mom and dad's basement, there was a little bit of a miscalculation in run rate of cash burn that that
those are called
that got
credit
me,
cards.
yeah, that got me like maybe 3 or 4 months before our marriage. And I said, "Hey, honey, I know we're not like officially married, but we're engaged and we've got that date. And here's some things I can't pay right now, like my car loan, some student loans. Do you think you might start advancing a little bit?" And it was that moment, Mike and John, that she believed in me. And she
Yeah,
said, "Absolutely, I'll do that." And that was then what propelled our career, our life, because that initial belief, not only from believing in me to say, let's go do it, financially backing me, and then you fast forward after she had a career at Procter and Gamble and General Motors in the early 2010s, 11, 12. He then said, "We've got something going at Lumen Legal. You're this visionary guy. I understand how to get stuff done as an integrator and be a strategist. Why don't we kind of merge
Hmm.
our business lives together?" And then we went on a pretty magical 7 or 8 year run where I credit her for unlocking the equity value of our enterprise, right?
yeah.
Where she goes, "This is how we're really going to get the maximum value." And so I guess I answered both reasons why she propelled us to the future. But first it was the belief, and then it was the strategy.
You
So
got it in,
Dave,
didn't you,
was
Dave? You got it
was
in.
that hard though? Like, was that a hard decision to bring your personal life like directly into your work life? I don't know if
Yeah.
uh my one of my co-founders kept asking me to have my wife Ellen, who's an amazing salesperson. She's just
Yeah.
incredible. Kept asking, "John, let's get Ellen. Just have her have her join us." I'm like, "No, no, I am absolutely not doing that." And like we actually got like a big argument about it.
Sure.
And that I just think that would have been disastrous for me at least. And so was there any trepidation for you on that, or like maybe you just have a different relationship than maybe I do with Ellen, I think. But
Yeah. No, definitely. I think trepidation on both of our parts, right? Because you're merging everything together in a single enterprise, and to try to have that separation of business and family, we never were able to achieve separation in like, oh, this is where it ends. But
Yeah.
we were able to develop routines and rituals that allowed us to create that. But it's a journey, John, no doubt about it, and probably more for Lynn as the integrator, executioner of the strategy than the visionary, right?
Yeah.
Because here I'm out there going, "Woo, let me give you all these cool ideas," and Lynn going, "I
Hold
love
on a
them, I
second.
love you, but whoa, Nelly, we're
That's
going to
number
execute
27,
this."
Dave. That's 27. We're on
Right.
number 3. John,
Mike,
how would
it's
you
it's
answer
a
the
version of
question?
idea monkey ringleader.
It
If you
is.
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
right? Isn't it?
100%. Mike nailed that in his one of his many books. And so, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, John, I want to give you a chance. So again, don't do what Dave did and get them both in. You get one
Yeah.
choice. Dave, that was good. Is it the support or the strategy, John, that was most important for you?
Definitely support, no question.
Yeah.
And there were two ways of support. I mean, and Ellen always encouraged me to take chances, take risks. And for me, like just my back, like even your story, Dave, with the family piece of it, so much of me was burnt into me through my dad, and like more
Mm,
observing my dad and hard work and his ethic and kind of being a servant leader. So much of that was just watching him almost. But then I take that to the different level with Ellen. Just we've known each other for so long and met the summer going into college. So we kind of grew up together in a way, shaped the
yeah.
adult and gave me so much more confidence than I really had. And she always encouraged me. And so when it came time to try to, figure out, jump into slalom, I really, really took a huge, huge, huge giant pay cut to try this. And
Yeah.
I joined a company that was an accounting finance staffing company. It was called 2 Degrees. And then we started the consulting division, and that we called 2 Degrees Consulting. And then that became Slalom. But the whole thing I did is like Ellen's just like, "Hey, just do it. Don't worry about it." We had 2 kids, 1 on the way,
Yeah.
and she was still like,
Mm,
"Don't worry about it. Just go do it." The other thing that Mike I will say from support, she was killing it in real estate. Like she was doing really, really well. So it did afford me some opportunity to take a risk because I really drastically took a really small salary, but like got big bonuses if everything paid off,
yeah.
which it did. But so both Ellen just saying, "John, just go for it. I believe in you. You could do it." And oh yeah, and I'll keep earning some money here in the real estate. So it was kind of two forms of support.
It's
Yeah.
amazing, John. It gives me goosebumps hearing that story, right? Because you articulated so many things that resonated with me on our journey, right? Where you're just like that support and then the financial, the belief that allows us as entrepreneurs to take on that outsized risk to create, maybe get that better return for our time and investment. And that's a beautiful part of a partnership, right? That
Yep.
we all have to negotiate with each other to create that future that we both desired and play our roles in it. So it just gave me goosebumps hearing your story with Ellen.
Yeah, I think I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and generally speaking, if they don't have a partner that's believing in them, they tend to fail because at the
Mm,
moment of, am I gonna, pit, pivot, profit, or punt? They punt because they're afraid of, um,
yeah,
you know, losing their partner. And like
yeah,
so just the belief that don't worry, it doesn't matter, it'll all work out, whatever happens happens, go. It seems to be the answer that most successful entrepreneurs will tell you 10 or 30 years later. So
yeah.
getting back to Lumen Legal, was
Mhm.
there a moment when you realized I'm really not a lawyer anymore, I'm an entrepreneur that happens to know law?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I will always identify myself as a lawyer by training, an entrepreneur at heart. So
Mm,
I had the good fortune of getting a law degree, practicing for a very short period of time. and then really realizing that I was better at finding great lawyers
Okay.
than being a great lawyer. And that was a recognition early on for me is I grew up in the era of LA law on TV in the 80s, right? Where people just got up and in 1 minute they're in the best dressed suits, they're in LA with beautiful people, and they deliver this amazing closing argument. I go, yeah, I think that's me. I could do that. But then rewind to what the actual reality of practicing law, which was, research, writing, compelling
Yeah.
arguments, and it just didn't align with who I was and where my unique ability was. So I was fortunate enough to have the support of Lynn, have the support of even friends and family that says, Dave, we know you went 7 years to go undergrad, get a law degree, and now you're walking away from practicing law literally within 16 months of getting licensed as a lawyer. But then they believed in that. And I realized that was my unique ability over there. So, lawyer by training, entrepreneur at heart. And I'll never, I'll always treasure the thinking that being a lawyer has given me analytically as part of that entrepreneurial journey.
That's amazing.
Did you?
So like just the really tactical first gig, did you work like with a friend, or like how did like that even the 16 months or so that you were practicing
Yeah.
law, like how did you start, or did you have like a specialty, or did
Yeah.
like because I think most people go to like a big company and get that experience through a big
Yep.
company or big law firm, but maybe I'm wrong, but did you jump right into Lumen Law and just kind of being a single
Yeah.
shingle? Is that how you did it?
Yeah, so a couple things. One is real very early on, within 4 months of joining a law firm as a commercial litigator, was at a very entrepreneurial law firm. So that was a
Okay,
blessing. I said, "Hey, guys, I'd like to start this company, but I got student loan debt, right? Same story you heard previously. And so I'd like to start it on the side to see what happens." They allowed me to do that. So that was grateful
got it.
number one.
Okay,
Number two, then, as we were launching then over the next 12 months, I made a decision that I would never be the one delivering the practice of law in my new business because we were a legal staffing and outsourcing company. So we were finding people to work directly with law firms in
okay,
corporate legal departments. So the best decision I made was I'm going to force myself early on never to do, oh, I could do that task and I'll bill myself out. It
yeah,
was, I'm going to put the pressure on myself that I'll find that right person and then build them out.
got it,
And for 27 years, I never had to render legal services or a legal task for a client. And that was just a single decision to make that happen.
got it.
Did
Yeah,
you? Did you
this
hire
is
for? So if I'm going to do a this or that question again for you, David.
Yeah. I
Um,
promise I'll give you one answer, not both.
yeah, I think this might be a lob pitch, but I'll try it anyway. Um, what was the most important hiring decision for you when hiring a lawyer? Was it expertise or values?
Values, without a doubt. I
Yeah.
know
How did you?
most
Yeah,
people would
yeah,
say it's got to be expertise, but it was values. How do we go about having someone that, for us, we were hiring individuals, Mike and John, that were on a different path. They were not on partner path, general counsel path.
yeah,
Talented individuals that wanted to engage in the practice of law in a different way. So we were an alternative, some less than full time, some on a full time but project by project basis were a couple of our service offerings. So us, it was about that value that says, here's what I want. Here's my career. I value you, Lumen Legal, for helping me unearth what I want to do with my life. And I will bring my skill set to you that will fill the need. So for us, it was about this is what I want to do with my legal career. You're helping me unlock it. Let's go. And that was more important because then we had someone that would be with us long time.
Yeah.
project to project. And that became part of their lifestyle versus just someone that was there for a season. We were hoping they were going to be there for multiple years, maybe even some of them a decade or more along the trajectory. So it was values, but of course they had to have the subject matter expertise.
At your peak, how many would did you have like out there doing different projects or
Yeah.
like at your peak? Because I imagine it, the whole model
It
is a
did, yeah.
variable,
So
but
for us, it was probably around 200, 210
nice.
lawyers
Yeah.
fully engaged out on assignment. And a lot of us in the latter part of it, we were early on into the AI adoption
Mm,
scenario. So we were taking on fixed fee scenarios
okay.
that started to reduce headcount. I'll give you an example. We did 25,000 cell tower leases for T-Mobile, right?
Yep.
Every cell tower needs a piece of equipment and there's a one-page lease. Very commodity stuff that would have taken dozens and dozens of lawyers. We started then to apply early on logic, technology, etc., that allowed us to take that bundle on and do it for a fixed fee basis with significantly less headcount.
Yeah.
And so that was where we
Yeah.
saw the business
That's
continuing
cool.
to go when we exited. It was less a people play and more of a process and technology play to move very expensive tasks to fixed fee. And that was our secret sauce as we were exiting the company, because then you had recurring revenue, fixed fee
Right.
margins that we could do as opposed to just a leverage play on labor.
Yeah. Good for
And
you.
let
That's amazing.
me ask you a couple questions about the exit, Dave.
Yeah,
My first exit or question, you sold to private equity,
we
right?
did.
Um, did you grieve the sale?
Hmm. So that's a multifaceted answer because of what I was going through personally as we were
Mm,
exiting. We weren't exiting because of my um, end stage liver disease. It was just the perfect time.
Yeah.
And COVID was hitting at the same time. So my wife and I have analyzed this because she was in the day to day running of the business. She grieved the sale substantially more than I did
Yeah.
because I was going out during literally when we were hiring investment bankers and the like. I was going through a living donor liver transplant. COVID hit while we were actually consummating the transaction, right? And we were working all remotely. So I had less connection to the on-site people. We had a document review center in Michigan that would house about 100 some odd people doing one of our document reviews. So I started to be more removed from the personal relationship, which made it a little bit easier for me to detach from that being who I was.
mm.
Is there
So that
any
was an
advice you'd
interesting
give?
thing.
So,
Yeah.
and maybe Lynn, your wife, you could speak for her.
Yeah.
Well, founders who are contemplating an exit and
Mm,
who aren't emotionally prepared for it, what advice would you give people that are thinking about this? Because it's always fascinating to me to
yeah.
hear from founders who may have been preparing for exit for years. And when
Sure.
it finally happens, there's this chasm between what they
Yes.
expected emotionally and what actually happens.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'll give you two areas of analysis there. One is just the personal ego attachment. So
Mhm.
how can we prepare ourselves to separate me as an individual from an entity that I birthed over 27 years, right? So
Yeah.
there's lots of techniques to do that. So pick one and try to start that separation. Two, for me, was then the understanding that when I exited and someone was buying my future cash flow and putting that cash in my bank account, um, I was losing significant control over the strategy of the enterprise, regardless of what they said to us,
Yeah.
which in most cases were people exiting to private equity as a platform company is just keep doing what you're doing. We love what you're doing. let's go. That becomes very quickly, hey, we just bought your future business. We're going to listen to your ideas. We're buying your future cash flow. It's now not it's in your pocket, not mine. We appreciate your ideas. And here's what we're doing, right? That
Yeah.
was my experience. Maybe not for everybody, but in
Common.
talking to others,
Quite
I
common.
think that is a common theme. And so anyone going through it, just recognize when that transaction comes, people bought your future cash flow, then clearly your input is going to be reduced because they're going to be running it to get their return that they want because they want a return on their money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very mature way of saying that was hard to watch.
100%. I mean, I won't speak too far out of turn, and no names will be attributed to it, but I can share this story. So we closed the transaction on July 1st, 2020. It's still in the midst of COVID.
Wow.
All the way through the process, it's, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, okay, cool, love it. About 5 hours after, the transaction, I'm sitting, at, my kitchen table going, I can celebrate a little bit. I get a phone call in and it's all about, well, here's what we're doing. Here's how we need to do it, etc. I'm like, wow, 5 hours. That's all I got was 5 hours. I mean, could you give me 24? I mean, it wasn't like a nasty call or anything, but I'm like, okay, yep, I see what happened. Those digits transferred over electronically. And it's like, here's what we're doing. I'm like, I respect that. Cool. Now I'm clear.
Did you
Okay,
say
so
you were like kind of putting a deal together before COVID, or
Yeah.
was COVID like an impetus to do it, or
No, so great point. So I won't go into huge detail,
yeah,
but so we were looking to, it was the right time to exit this type of business, alternative legal staffing business, high valuations, private equity chasing it. Not dissimilar to, I think, a lot of companies that are at that stage. We took an unsolicited call in, went through a part of a transaction, signed an LOI, then backed away from it and go, would I just sell my company? And this was pre-COVID, 2019, to someone that knocked my house, if someone knocked on my door and said, hey, I want to buy it.
yeah,
No, I'd create a market for it, right? So we backed away, and that was August of 2019, pre-COVID. And then we went, hired an investment banker, created a market, 40 companies, 16 people, 3 finalists, and that went through literally October through, we signed the LOI with who hired us March 16th, 2020, which
wow,
was a big day in Michigan, which is where I reside, where everything the next day was shutting
shut
down.
down. Yeah,
what's the
So
delta, Dave? What was the delta on having
wow,
stalking horses versus having someone knock on your front door? What percentage? How
so
much more did you get or
that's a good
less?
question.
crazy. So I'm going to go back to the initial offer that came out of the chute with the unsolicited, which
Yeah.
obviously was a lowball offer. And then we negotiated it up with them before we signed, and then we did an actual transaction. It was double the purchase price with
Yeah.
better terms.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. Now, I don't know if
Huge
that's
lesson. Huge
representative or
lesson
not.
for, yeah.
Crazy, Mike
Yeah.
and John. We were like, how could this be? But then you're
Yeah,
just like, it's economics, it's market-based dynamics, right? And then
yeah,
you
Mhm.
get people hustling, they got different things they're doing, you're running a process. So we were blown away in that. And then the terms were different. And then we were very much focused at that stage on an all cash deal with an option for us to roll money in if we so choose. So again, not to get into this, make this about a transaction call, but a couple learnings we had was the better we could negotiate terms up front in cash and allow us to convert in was better. And then two, because we had large corporate customers and we had employees that were
mm,
transitioning to a platform company at a private equity, we wanted to do two things. One is to make the transaction work better for our clients and our buyers. We took and rolled over about 2.5%. We could have rolled over about 10, but we did mostly cash, and we did it strategically so we could tell our large Fortune 50 customers we still are shareholders, and they
Right.
never ask how
You're
much.
rolling it in.
Yeah,
We
and
believe
then
in the future too.
exactly, and then two, our employees as well. Same thing. Hey, we have we're still shareholders of the combined entity. And so those were critical things that for us, we learned that had a massive impact on retention and client satisfaction by just doing that. And it was not like we were trying to not be truthful. It was very truthful, but we didn't want to increase our risk by rolling a substantial amount in.
Okay, so
That's
I want to switch topics. I want to get to your health
Yeah.
eventually, but I'm trying to
yeah.
work
Can I?
through. Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead,
going to
John.
do the
Go.
same thing, Mike. Because I think I wanted to ask a question about the decision, like the original decision to go
Yeah.
there. But one of the things that I think like in this podcast, we try to dive into the leader mindset, the decision
Yeah.
making process, how they came up with that. And so whether it was, hey, we need to make a transaction and we need to pursue this based on the knock on the door, or
Yeah.
even early on, something like, okay, I'm going to bring linen, or like, I need to shift. Can you talk about one of the more pivotal decisions that you made, and then the process of how you went through that, who
Mm.
you engaged maybe as coach around that? That's one of the themes that we try to spell out from leaders as they're joining our podcast.
Yeah, love it, love it. So multiple inflection points along that journey. But I'll pick one and then we'll build on it. One was just the fact that Lynn would join and leave corporate America. But the
Mm,
second thing that was very interesting was I then made a decision to transfer. Again, we're married, but the shares were founded in my name. I then transferred all of my shares to Lynn
mm.
at a certain stage, which was a major, major inflection point that people I don't tell a lot about. So, hey,
Why'd you do
little
it?
flash.
W-
Yeah, here you go. I did it because two things. One is Lynn was joining as the CEO and running the organization over time. There were multiple steps. We'll get to where she ended up. And then, two, there was a strategic reason because of some of the companies that we were serving allowed
Yeah,
us
minority.
also to leverage what the marketplace was rewarding at that time. And we did it. So there was a strategic underlying business reason. And then, two, hey, let's do this and let's move it from that way. Now, we could have done it in a lesser way where I
Dramatic.
didn't transfer all the shares, but I said,
Correct.
we're all in. Here you go.
Yeah,
Everything. And we had one other
that's
shareholder.
ballsy, dude. So, yeah, I get the minority owned business, like the female owned
100%.
business angle.
Yeah.
But wow, that's nothing. Nothing says I believe in our marriage than here. 100% of my shares are in your name. How did you respond to
Absolutely.
that? Did she try to talk you out of that?
No, because we felt like we were in this so together, right? Our entire lives. And was there maybe perceived risk to me? But I look at it and I go, if I'm not willing to do that and go all in, we're one anyways and have been, then there's something that's wrong with me or my relationship. Then it's either an ego thing, it's either I don't really believe in it. So for me, it was like, this is the right strategy. It's the right thing. So why do I need to to mitigate my risk, right? Even though we as entrepreneurs are all about, people say we're risk takers, most times we're just really good at minimizing risk and maximizing upside, right? That's what I think a great entrepreneur does. And I'm like, in this case, no, this is not me going, could I just transfer that amount and we fulfill that
Yeah, this is a
strategy? It's like,
visionary entrepreneur saying
it's
what
all
could
in.
possibly go wrong. That's what's happening
Yeah.
right now. So, all right.
Exactly.
So, speaking of entrepreneur, you were the global chair
Mm,
of Entrepreneurs Organization, which is quite an
yeah.
honor. I was with Shelby Joy
Yep.
Scarborough this
Yeah.
last weekend in
I love
Vancouver,
her.
another global chair and a friend of yours,
Yeah.
I know. And I mean, it's an extraordinary honor. So
Mm,
you've had like front row seats to entrepreneurs
yeah.
from all over the world.
Yeah.
Is there anything that entrepreneurs have in common,
Mm.
regardless of geography, that you noticed?
Yeah. And I think this has been said many times by probably a lot of people, this insatiable curiosity to make the world a better place in whatever way they see. So it's just this curiosity. Why? What does that look? How is it done that way? We could do it that way, right? It's this incredible curiosity with the belief in possibility. And in that, when we're curious and we believe in the possible, we become some of the best problem solvers in the world. So it's this mindset of curiosity with possibility, and then we practice our trade solving problems. I had a great mentor, um, Dr. Jerry Bell, who at the Entrepreneurs Organization, as my year as chair, I got a little bit of budget to launch something that I thought would be impactful for our members. And it became known as the EO Global Leadership Academy. It's still
Mm,
something that goes on today. And we launched it with a small entrepreneurial budget of $50,000 that I had. And Dr. Jerry Bell was on our faculty for the first 5 years, UNC professor. And here's what he said. He said, Dave, here's the deal. So I train all my leaders on. You will face a minimum of 100 problems a day, a minimum as an entrepreneur. And he goes, here's the beauty. If you practice that every day with curiosity and possibility, you will become a world-class problem solver. And here's what you get as a result of that, Mike and John. He goes, you will get harder and harder problems to solve because you're better at it. Treat that as a gift because someone gifted you that opportunity to be in that leadership seat, to give you those problems, to hone that problem solving muscle. Now give it back to the world and solve bigger and bigger problems for the world.
I
And
love it.
for me, that is stuck with me
Hmm.
from the beginning. And I think it goes back to your question. That's what entrepreneurs have globally: curiosity, possibility, with this desire to problem solve. And no matter what they see, their business, their community, their family, they'll tackle them and they get better and better at problem solving. And for us collectively as entrepreneurs on this call, and I know the thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that listen to your podcast, that's what we're here to do: solve problems, solve bigger ones, and give back. And that's the entrepreneurial mindset I see around the globe and
mm.
continue to be enamored
And the
by
people
to help
said,
support.
Amen.
Right?
That's
Right?
yeah. Like from the
And you
pulpit,
guys know it.
David
You live it too,
Galbenski.
right? You live
That
it
was
too.
awesome, man. I think I think I've been thinking about this as well. Oh, well, so I was at my nephew's 18-year-old birthday
Mhm.
a couple days ago, and they had this beautiful thing they did. When he was born, everyone in the family wrote him a letter to his 18-year-old self, and
Mhm.
each one of them read it to him on his
Mhm.
18th birthday, 18 years later. And it's very sweet because my brother-in-law had to read the notes from his mom and dad who have both passed. And you can
Mm.
imagine how emotional that was for him. But I noticed themes in every one of the letters. They said, don't give up. Don't quit. You can do it. Always believe in yourself. Every one of the letters said that. And I
Mm.
thought, there it is. There's this grit. But what you've noticed is like, instead of just nose down, it's like nose up, like, what's happening here? Why is this not working? Why did that hurt so
Yes.
much? What did I learn? And I think entrepreneurship, this is kind of a new idea that uh, Tina introduced me to. I think entrepreneurship prepares you for trauma in a really unique way. What do you think of that?
For sure.
This is a bridge, by the way, to your health issues. So,
Yeah.
do you think entrepreneurship prepares you for trauma?
100%, right? Without a doubt. It's that 100 problems a day. It's that possibility. It's envisioning a better future. It's believing that it can happen. And
Right.
it's tackling it with, vulnerability, tackling it with realistic positivity, things that I talk about when we get hit with trauma, right? And for me, the biggest thing, that I had to face when I faced that trauma was being very vulnerable to others to say, are you willing to become a living donor to me? I was in end stage liver disease. I would either get a deceased organ or I could get a living donor to give me a portion of his or her liver. And it was that vulnerability to step forward to say, will you help me? And I think for a lot of people, and for me for sure, it was this: am I worthy and overcoming am I worthy for someone to express that level of love
Mm.
for me. So yes, entrepreneurship to me helped me understand becoming vulnerable, stepping into being comfortable, being uncomfortable with the ability to have the possibility that someone would say yes, and being okay if some people did not say yes for even considering that.
And you
So
had
Okay,
something, you had like an autoimmune disease, right?
I
That's what
did.
happened.
that's what I was gonna
Your,
ask. Like,
yeah.
how did it play
He
out or
drank,
um
Dave was a big drinker. I can say this now
Yeah,
that
right.
Dave was like, he's a moonshiner. It comes from a long line of proud
Exactly.
moonshiners. Now, that's how it happened. You had an
Yeah,
autoimmune disorder
yeah.
or something, right?
but did you
I did,
know
yeah.
about it like
So
for a long time or did it like kind of just hit you or someone discover it?
so it's so fun, right? That's what entrepreneurship does for us. So I'll take you back to how we started discovering it. 2011, I had my transplant surgery in 2019, just to give everyone context. So 2011, I'm, in my early 40s, you know, um, healthy, active, sports guy. And my HR director comes to me and says, "Hey, we're launching this disability policy for a lot of our lawyers that are, contract, and we need this maximum participation because we want to drive down this, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, well, and here's where, 42 years old, I can't see any reason why I wouldn't qualify to be a part of that. Sure, I don't need it. I've got other stuff. Excellent. So they send in a nurse, blood work, and they go, there's some funky, wonky blood work, some liver issues. Let's investigate them. Took 2 years to figure out what was causing that, right? So it was an initial insurance, blood
Mm,
draw. 2 years later, they diagnosed me with what's called primary sclerosing cholangitis, a rare autoimmune disease that attacks the bile ducts in your liver, inflames them, sticks them together, bile can't flow. Your liver says, I'm not happy.
mm,
And over some period of time, it'll enter end stage liver disease. Because in the US, about 30,000 people have that diagnosis, there's not a lot of research being done. Be
right.
probably categorized as an orphan disease in the pharma area. So there's one treatment, transplant, when you get to end stage liver disease.
Okay.
And so it can progress days, weeks, months, years, decades. So how's that for strategic planning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's your diagnosis.
And you're probably
It
like,
could
I want to fix it
progress.
right
Yeah.
now. Like
Good luck.
right
Yeah,
now, I
right.
want to fix this thing.
Exactly. So again, for me, then it progressed in kind of that medium from it took diagnosis 2013 to transplant about 6 years. Along that journey, lots of ways to try to prolong the life of the liver. You go on then a transplant list, and then you wait to either get an organ or you proactively find a living donor. And I was grateful. My wife's younger sister's husband
Wow.
became my donor. My
Wow.
brother-in-law, Mark Dybus, who's my angel on earth, and is who for me is with me every day in whatever I do. So, when you hear the sports people talk about with, say, golfers, like, hey, we really performed well this week, for me, every time I say something, it is true. We really performed well this week because he's with me all the time, whatever I do.
Wow.
You know more about the liver than most people at this
Hmm.
point. And
Yeah.
and the liver grows back, right? I mean, the liver has the ability. I don't know what I'm
Yes.
talking about, so you can either confirm or deny
No,
what
it
I'm saying.
does.
Yeah.
100%, Mike. You're one of very few people still, Mike, that even have that level of knowledge about the liver that actually regenerates. And
Well, I'm
so it
Irish, so what do you
regenerates.
know?
Yeah, exactly. It regenerates to full size in both the donor and the recipient within approximately 8 weeks.
It's
So your
nuts.
liver has two lobes. They'll take out one lobe, place it in me. The other lobe remains there. It'll grow to full volume size in a single lobe in about 8 weeks. It's the most
Crazy.
amazing thing. And so it's actually one of the reasons why in 2022, Lynn and I formed what's become known as the Living Liver Foundation, and
Yeah.
it really had two aims: awareness and advocacy. The awareness piece was just letting people know that the liver regenerates and they can become a living donor. There's basically two main organs that you can donate as a living donor: kidney and liver.
Yeah.
100,000 people today in the United States are in need of a kidney or a liver. 90 kidney, 10,000 liver. And we have the technology. We have the solution. We're not chasing a cure. So our awareness is, how do we get those 100,000 people that are waiting on an organ right now down to zero? And it's just awareness that people can save lives by doing it. The technology's there, and the risk is very minimal, and it's getting people to understand that. And then the second thing was advocacy. And it's all about paying it forward for Mark Dybus, my brother-in-law.
Is the
You're
matching
trying to
tough
change
on
the
that?
laws, right? That right now you're trying
Yeah.
to get laws changed. Can you talk a little bit about that and tell us how we might be able to help?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. And it's been a passion project of Lynn and mine, and of course, Mark along the way. And he's also testified along the way in front of committees. So in the United States, there is a rating system put on by American Kidney Fund that rates all 50 of our states on legislation protecting living donors. Heroes, they're saving lives. They're stepping forward, having a surgery to donate a kidney or a liver. And there's 7 criteria the American Kidney Fund rates these states on. Michigan, when my brother-in-law Mark was going through his surgery in 2019, had 0 of the 7 protections for the living donors. And when they put it on a grade scale, it was an F, from A through F, and was one of the very few states that had it. So my brother-in-law took on financial risk, things that he shouldn't have had to take on to save my life in the state of Michigan. So when we formed the foundation, I had one thing I wanted to do, which was to eliminate the financial and economic barriers to living donors in the state of Michigan. As we know, it's tough to get federal legislation done. So we said, I'm going to solve it in Michigan. So we have gone on a journey, and we're getting ready to finish passing what we call the triple play of legislation in Michigan that now will allow us to have 4, because there was an executive order done, 3 pieces of legislation, 4 of the 7, which puts us in this B plus ranking.
Hmm.
And they're very simple and straightforward. One is, we prevented any insurance company that's writing life, long-term care, or disability insurance in the state of Michigan not to discriminate against living donors by increasing their premiums, canceling their premiums. Bill number 1. Bill number 2, $10,000 state tax credit for the living donor for lost wages, childcare, travel, and lodging related to the donation. Bill number 2. Bill number 3 is just in its final procedural items in the Michigan Senate. Will be going to the governor's desk in the next month for signature. And that is an employer state tax credit for living donors for any wages that they would have lost out on after the employer's leave policy ended for up to 12 weeks. So then the employer can continue to pay that living donor their wages. So then they'll never have lost wages. So that second bill, $10,000 state credit just for travel and lodging. They'll never have lost wages. And we've removed the significant amount of financial barriers in front of living donors becoming angels on earth. So proud of what we were able to do in a bipartisan way in the state of Michigan to help living donors become heroes. And we're going to get that wait list down to 0 in Michigan because of it. And I'm proud to report that from 2024 to 2025, there was an over 20% uptick in living organ donation. Correlation, not causation. I don't have that nailed,
Mm.
but just to see that is pretty cool because everyone's starting to figure that out. And so, triple play of legislation. How can people help? Number one, just look up their state. Type in American Kidney Fund, state of Louisiana, Illinois, see where you rank. And if there's gaps, have them reach out, talk to their legislature, reach out to me, and we can help go state by state until we get some federal movement. And let's just honor these heroes for the gifts that they're giving. And again, paying it forward for Mark. Really proud of it and excited. And
Mm.
I can't end without saying, here's what I would tell legislators when I first started in 2023. I'd say I know two things about passing a bill. I'm of the schoolhouse rock age. So I can sing to you, I'm just a bill sitting here on Capitol Hill. And I'd get to that point, they're like, I'm good. I'm good. No more singing, man. Thank you. And then I said, and thank you for spending our state tax dollars to produce. And I'd pull out of my backpack a really beautiful thing they did for high schoolers on how to get a bill passed in the state of Michigan. And I said, these two things, that's all I got. Plus, I'm alive because of my living donor. How are we going to get it done? And we had some great leaders in the legislature that stepped forward. Senator Hertel, who's our senator, stepped forward and worked in a bipartisan way. And he said, Dave, I'll get you the triple play done. And he honored
Oh,
his word. And
it's
that's the
amazing.
beauty of public service when you have people that care and advocates that get it done.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, you're living before we get to the rapid fire, Mike, I know you're queued up
Yeah.
there, but you're really living kind of that entrepreneurial credo that you talked about in EO and being curious and understanding the possibility. You know, you looked at it from yourself, but now you're taking it to another level and be like, how do I advocate for this for the good of all?
Yeah.
And so it's like
100%.
actually a perfect example of how you're living that.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
maybe that entrepreneurial spirit helped with that, you know,
It
not
sure
not
did.
just for you to solve it for yourself, but to now pay it forward and really look at it. I just think it's really cool that you're living that ethos that you talked about when you really running EO. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And shout out to Mark Dybus. He's the one that makes it happen. I do everything in his honor.
Yeah, David, is a great softball pitch because, but wait, there's more. So, Dave, you you also started a global entrepreneurial school. Um,
Yeah.
that is because, with all your extra time, you decided that was important. To give
Yeah.
us a few minutes on that. How's that working
Yeah,
out?
happy to. Yeah. Again, with a colleague we know, Shelby Scarborough, who serves as the CEO of the Global School of Entrepreneurship, we just want to disrupt education, right? How do we bring accredited education to entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs or practitioners that may need to round out their business acumen? We've got a dental MBA, we've got a PhD, we've got disruptive stuff that we're wanting to bring out to people because we believe in the spirit of entrepreneurship to take academia and meet entrepreneurs where they're at. So we're having fun developing that. Hey, as a matter of fact, look at that. Little
How
Global
about
School of
that?
Entrepreneurship mug. I didn't know I had my tea in it today.
I got one
And
of
I didn't know
those.
you were going to ask the question. So that's awesome. But we're
I think
excited
it's
about it. We think it's a great way, given a lot of the transformation in academia, to give real practical entrepreneurial insight to those seeking accredited degree programs. And hopefully we can bridge that gap and create opportunities for people that may not pursue more formal education by bringing it to them in a different way.
I remember getting my underwear all in a bunch early days because the guy that ran the entrepreneurial program at the local college had never run a business. And he
Mm,
asked me to come and speak in his school. And I'm just like, well, tell me about your experience. He goes, well, I'm a tenured professor. I've been teaching on entrepreneurship for 15 years. I'm like, so what's your business experience? He's like, well, I've never really run a business. I'm like, oh my, come on. So you had no risk. And so
Yes,
I think that it's a problem. I
it is.
apologize, but it really got me worked up. And then I was on a board, and they were making fun of a guy that ran a plumbing. He's a big donor for the college. This is 20 years ago, so I'm not going to get anybody in
Sure.
trouble. But they were making fun of him. These professors are like, oh, he runs a plumbing company. I'm like, yeah, he runs a company, you jackass. Like, I was so
Exactly.
angry because this
Yes.
guy was donating his time and money, and quietly they're making fun of him because he's a plumber. It made me crazy. And so here's a visionary entrepreneur who first disrupted the legal services industry
Yep.
and then said, why not education?
Yeah.
And you're doing
100%.
it. And you're doing it with Shelby, who's another ran
Mm,
Entrepreneurs Organization,
yeah.
and has run companies. So I think it's just amazing, and you deserve a lot of credit. I don't know where you get all your energy. Wow. Okay. So are you ready for some rapid fire questions? John, do you have any other questions for
Let's
David
go.
before I start peppering
Well,
him?
let's get into it.
Okay. Let's see. I'll give you an easy one. What's the best business book you've read in the last 5 years?
Mm. Best business book last 5 years. I'm going to say a reread of Jim Collins' Good to Great.
Mm,
And I know because oftentimes it's what's the latest. I love rereading books because they strike me. I'm a biblical guy too. They strike me with different things than I knew.
Yes.
So to me, it's rereading Jim Collins' Good to Great, even though the companies are old and the name brands aren't there. Level five leadership and other concepts in there are huge. And I love it. It's a timeless book.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw Jim Collins for the second time of about a year ago, and I was with for a day, and he talked about the flywheel concept. I've read that book 4 times.
100%.
He did an hour in the flywheel concept. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's how it works. I mean, it's like when the
Right?
student is ready, the teacher appears. I was so ready.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's
that's
how
I
I
think
feel
that I
about
think
five
Mike and
dysfunctions. Sorry,
go
that's how
for
I
it.
feel about the five dysfunctions of a team.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can reread
Patrick's
that
book.
thing, or I give it to new people, and then like we have like even like a little class around it, and like a way to score like how you're doing, how dysfunctional you are as a team, and then areas that you can improve on. But I could read it over and over, and I pick up one little nugget. I love that. I read Good to Great a long time ago. I'll have to dig
It's
Yeah.
that
a
back
great
up.
book.
Well,
It
here's the
holds up.
plug, right? I think we should have our canon of ones that are like five dysfunctions, good to great, others, and then great thinkers and writers, literally. And I mean this like Mike and others that are writing stuff that's new that
Yeah.
you're always tucking in
Yeah.
to as well. And I will tell you just quickly where I spend a lot of time now, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs is on podcasts and different ones. My favorite one right now is Acquired
I love
because
Acquired.
of I love it, right? So that's where I'm doing a lot of what I'll call my book reading because they just profile all of these successful businesses and it's like reading biographies of it. And so the last one I just listened to was on Vanguard.
Okay.
And what an amazing listen. So if anyone is looking for real time, what I just listened to that blew me away is Vanguard Unacquired. So many lessons in there about disruption in an industry that was highly regulated. And John Vogel went the entire different way, and it was awesome.
Love it.
Mike, it is an amazing podcast. I did I've listened to a bunch of them, honestly.
I've never heard of
The
it. So thank
The
you for the
Balmer
gift.
interview was really good. Like
Yes.
maybe you respect
Stunning.
him or don't, but like it's amazing insights around how they were thinking in Microsoft and the avant-garde things that they did, and then even him personally, like where how he made a lot of his wealth, like even outside of Microsoft in a way. Anyway, and then I had a big pitch going on at Costco. And so I wanted to find out more about how they
Yes.
think. And I listened to the Costco one.
Unreal.
Amazing. It's so crazy. Their formula for success. Anyway, Acquired. Love
It
that.
is.
All
They
right.
do. They've got Google. They've got
Yeah.
Ferrari. They've got all these brand names, and they take you from. They do a ton of research on it. So, big shout out there. Love that. Love it as well. So
Good
awesome. I know
one.
it's rapid fire. Let's rock and roll.
That was not rapid fire, but thank you for the gift of the podcast. Okay, so the most underrated entrepreneurial skill.
Mm,
Mm,
most underrated entrepreneurial skill. I think communication. Communication. I don't
mm.
think gets enough for entrepreneurs learning how to communicate.
One thing founders wait too long to do.
Mm. Let go of high performing individuals that don't fit the culture.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's God.
Good one.
That is such a terrible lesson to learn again or try to learn multiple
Yes.
times. The salesperson that's killing it has the relationships with the greatest client and is a complete douchebag. Like we can't get rid of that guy.
Toughest
Meanwhile, your best
toughest one,
employees are leaving because you're not standing by your values.
right?
It's all
Yep.
right. Sorry, you got me on my soapbox. Um, what's the most courageous decision you've ever made?
Mm. Oh, wow. Um, yeah, for me, it's not the craziest, but the one that was the most impactful was when I chose to go study abroad
Mm.
as an undergrad in Spain. And I was 18 years old, flying across the country with really minimal communication in the 80s back, because that just opened up a whole new world to me of uh, global exploration that took me throughout my entire career. So that was crazy. A lot of people in the late 80s were not studying abroad. And that was just, to me, craziest thing I ever did. And I loved it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. A lot of, I mean, so many of our kids now do that, but like that was definitely not a thing when we were growing up,
I
that
No.
was not a
totally,
thing. Wow.
totally missed
Good for
out on
you.
that one.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Um, okay. A great entrepreneur builds a company. A flourishing entrepreneur builds blank.
Mhm.
A great entrepreneur builds a company. A
Yeah.
flourishing entrepreneur builds blank.
Yeah. Culture and teams, like a support structure around them of advisors and people that they can go to, right? I mean, that to me is the number one thing. We have
Mm,
to have that team.
yeah.
All right. So I just want to thank you, Dave. I'm grateful for your time with us and your legacy is secured. I mean, you've made such a huge dent in the universe. And I just wanted to let y'all know that the enthusiasm that you're hearing in Dave's voice is unwaning. I mean, every time I'm with Dave, he's just like, "Hey man, how you doing? How's it
You
going?
could see,
You
you
look
could
great. Are you
definitely
okay?"
feel that.
And he
Even
means it.
before the podcast started, Mike, you felt that totally, Dave, just even talking to you. And just want to echo the thanks, Dave. There are so many great nuggets in here in
Mm.
terms of like if you are an entrepreneur or business builder, there are so many great nuggets and teachings that you provided, let alone your inspiration to being an entrepreneur from the onset and just thinking having that different mind around being curious and always thinking about the possibilities. That one's going to stick with me. So thank you for all the time, Dave. This was awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you guys. Grateful for both of you in my life and grateful for what you're doing to share these nuggets with everyone. You guys are providing a platform for entrepreneurs to learn from each other, and that's what it's all about. We learn from each other's experience. Appreciate you guys, and thanks to what you're doing in the universe. You guys are awesome.
love you, David.